Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, September 7th, 2011 meeting of the Municipal Platting Board. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Lyndall Story.
Here.
Steve Abel. Ken Fuller.
Here.
Ellen McKay.
Here.
Jody Moses.
Here.
Daniel Young.
Present.
Brent Cole. Here. Amy McKenzie.
We do have some absences this evening, and there is one vacancy on the board, but we do have a quorum, and it is not a short board, so we'll carry on. The first order of business is approval of action summaries. We have action summaries for Monday, July the 25th, 2011, Wednesday, August the 3rd, 2011, and Monday, August the 15th, 2011. May I have a positive motion, please? Mr. Young.
Yes, I make a positive motion to approve the action summaries.
And Mr. Cole seconds. Is there any discussion? Is there any objection to the motion? Seeing none, the motion passes and the action summaries are approved. Next, approval of minutes. We have minutes for December 2nd, 2009 and August 3rd, 2011. Are there any corrections? Mr. Young.
Yes, on the August 3rd, 2011, on the last page, middle of the page, it said Board Member Young moved to approve action summaries of June 27th, 2011, July 4th, 2011, and it also says that that I seconded it, and I believe that's an error.
I'll correct that.
Thank you.
Any other issues? Could I have a positive motion for approval of the minutes, please? Mr. Young and Ms. Moses seconds. Are there any other corrections or additions? Any objection to the motion? Seeing none, the motion passes and the minutes are approved. Under special order of business, disclosures. Are there any disclosures this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along. No special order of business, nothing on the consent agenda, no old business, which brings us to the first public hearing case of the evening, case S11694-3, Creekside Subdivision. Can we have staff's presentation, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a second 18-month time extension request for platting case S11694-3, Creekside Subdivision Tracks A through E. The petitioner is requesting additional time and has the right to do that. They are citing the need for right-of-way acquisition and street improvements as the basis for their request for a time extension. The reviewing agencies had no objection. The department recommends approval of this second 18-month time extension, subject to the conditions that are already on the plat. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Are there any questions for Mr. McLaughlin? Any questions of staff? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing, and during the public hearing, we'll follow the procedures on the front of the agenda. After staff's presentation, the chair asks for public testimony on the issue. Persons wishing to testify follow the time limits established by the rules of procedure. That is, the petitioners get 10 minutes, and rebuttal by the petitioners may be allowed when time is reserved. Representative of groups like community councils and PTAs have 5 minutes, and individuals have 3 minutes. We keep time with this little timer up here on the front. It's got a green light when your time begins, and then when you have 1 minute left, the light will turn yellow, and when your time is up, it turns red, and there's a beep, and you need to sum up if you haven't already. You should stay at the podium if you've testified, because the board may wish to ask you questions. Any individual may have appeal rights relating to any action that we take, and the outline the procedure is outlined on the front of the agenda. So with that, we'll open the public hearing, and could we hear from the petitioner, please, or the petitioner's representative?
Madam Chair, members of the board, staff, good evening. My name is Tom Adams. I'm with Lounsbury & Associates. I'm a civil engineering consultant for Walmart Stores, the petitioner. If necessary, I'd like to reserve 3 minutes for rebuttal. I think this is a pretty simple request. Many of you are familiar with this project through at least a review of the packet and the conditions of approval that require Walmart to construct a vast amount of off-site street improvements as part of their planned development at Muldoon Road, at the intersection of Muldoon Road and DeBar. Past several years, we have diligently pursued the design and approval of those off-site improvements to include Patterson, the extension of Patterson north of DeBar, the extension of Creekside Center Drive north of DeBar and wrapping around the backside of Fred Meyer and connecting to Muldoon, and also the improvement of 10th Avenue. We recently obtained approval, a second approval from the municipality of Anchorage, and are pending approval from DOT. I say a second approval from the municipality of Anchorage because our original design anticipated some intersection improvements at the Muldoon Road, Creekside Center Drive intersection, a new signalized intersection, intending to relocate the existing traffic signal that's at 12th Court and Muldoon now. As you can imagine, 11th Court, which is currently on the east side of Muldoon Road, is a fairly simple local road, and with the installation of a traffic signal required not only improvements for the new segment of road on the west side of Muldoon, but a significant amount of improvements on the east side. Those improvements required acquisition of right-of-way, and Walmart has been attempting to acquire those through purchase, effectively. The first design impacted a piece of property in the southeast quadrant. Unfortunately, Walmart was unsuccessful in acquiring the necessary rights-of-way from that particular property owner, requiring a redesign of the intersection, which we recently completed and obtained that second approval from the municipality of Anchorage. Accordingly, we are now seeking to acquire properties from that northeast quadrant, and this time extension is necessary to allow that process to be completed so that we have all the necessary rights-of-way in hand and can pursue the improvements that are required of Walmart. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I guess I'd sit down and wait for my rebuttal time if necessary.
Okay, you have about 4.5 minutes left to rebuttal.
Thank you.
Oh, plus 3 minutes. You have lots to rebuttal. Any questions for Mr. Adams? Guess not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to testify in case? Where we are. Good Lord. S11694-3, Creekside Subdivision. Anyone at all? Seeing none, would you care to use any of your rebuttal time, Mr. Adams? He indicates not. So we'll close the public hearing, and the matter rests with the board. Are there any questions of staff? Mr. Young.
Yes, through the chair. Is it likely that a traffic study, if we extend this, that the traffic study is still valid, or would a new traffic study be advised?
The approved and accepted traffic study will remain current.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, I entertain a positive motion. Mr. Story.
In the case S-11694-3, Creekside Subdivision, I move to approve the second 18-month time extension.
And Mr. Fuller seconds. Could you speak to your motion, Mr. Story?
Based on the fact that the reviewing agencies had either no comment or no objection to the second 18-month time extension being granted, and it appears to be a reasonable request based on the fact that it allows the petitioner to obtain MOA plan approval and additional right-of-way acquisition.
Any other comments? Oh, Mr. Young.
Yes, I intend to support this, and I've read the public comments, and in the public comments there are an issue regarding zoning, and this board does not address zoning issues, and there's a concern about trespass, and this board doesn't address those. So I find that that this application is consistent with the requirements for approval. And also, I want to summarize that in findings that a traffic study that already exists will be adequate in the future. So that we've listened to the public comments and we've considered the traffic impacts. So with those findings, I will be supporting this.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Anyone else? Is there any objection to the motion? Seeing none, the motion passes and the second time extension is approved. Okay, next case, last case, is case S11168-4, Grandeur Subdivision. May we have staff's presentation, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request for a time extension for subdivision agreement 2007-001 for Grandeur Subdivision lots 1 through 5. The basis for this request is due to market conditions and design modifications for the subdivision agreement. The petitioner is working with private development who writes the subdivision agreement to resolve right-of-way issues due to topography, drainage in the area, since this is a steeply sloped area. Project Management Engineering has no objection to this subdivision agreement time extension request. None of the reviewing agencies had any objection. The department recommends approval of the time extension, the subdivision agreement time extension request until July 25th, 2013. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions of staff? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing, and could we hear from the petitioner, please?
Yeah, good evening. I'm Mark Phillips. I'm representing Joe Burnham here tonight. I agreed to come in. The primary reason for the request is once we got into construction, the design had to be redone, and the primary reason the approved design was going to get into the water table, so it's been redone. And if there's any questions, I'll see what I can do.
Any question for Mr. Phillips? I guess not. Thank you very much.
Okay.
You have 9.5 minutes of rebuttal time.
Okay.
Anyone else wishing to testify in case S11168-4, Grandeur Subdivision? Anyone at all? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. And Mr. Phillips, do you want to use any of your rebuttal time? He indicates not. So we close the public hearing, and the matter rests with the board. So are there any questions of staff? Seeing none, I'd entertain a positive motion in the case. Mr. Cole. And Ms. Moses seconds. Would you speak to your motion, please? And is your mic on? There we go.
Excuse me. Sure, I'll repeat that. I apologize. In the case of S11168-4 Grandeur Subdivision, I would move to grant the second 2-year time extension request for subdivision agreement number 07-001. And speaking to that motion, based upon the information that's been provided to us by the package -F-1-B, I believe that this supports a extension of the 2-year time in order to comply with the requirements under the permit, and I think this is supported by the fact that there were no oppositions in the packet, and it seems reasonable under the circumstances.
Any other comment? Any other comments? Is there any objection to the motion? Seeing none, the motion passes, and the second time extension for its subdivision agreement is approved. Which brings us to the end of the public hearings. There are no appearance requests, no scheduled persons to be heard, no scheduled reports. Board member comments? Okay. With that, I'd entertain a motion for adjournment. Mr. Young, is there a second? Ms. Moses, we are adjourned.